Hey everybody, welcome to, I don't even know what week this is. I should know what week it is. Let's see, third week of coaching. And I'm really excited about this because this is the thing. As we work this business, this is where we will learn personal growth, especially, personal growth happens regardless of where you're at in your business, but the first 90 days of really going all in with your business is what's going to spark and initiate personal growth, right? And the cool thing is, as you work this business, that's when questions pop up. And so I am so happy to be able to give you guys my time. And even though we can't all meet one-on-one, obviously that would be the best, but it's not humanly possible to meet with everyone one-on-one and be able to answer all the questions. And so these group coachings, I feel like, offer a great plan B for that because, oops, if you guys aren't all muted, make sure you're muted. Because it offers the ability to ask me questions and then I can respond. So I was just writing down some of the questions that I saw posted in the chat on the Momentum group and on the team page. And so if you have specific questions, do not feel embarrassed to ask them. In my opinion, there's no wrong or silly questions because that's how we learn. And I had so many questions. I literally asked my sponsor thousands of questions within my first year, because as you work this business, you're going to have questions pop up, you're going to have fears pop up, you're going to have mindset issues, you're going to have head trash. And the more you verbalize that and stop internalizing that and stop and trying to internalize it and just deal with it yourself, the quicker you're vulnerable and say, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. What do you say to this? I promise you, it's like climbing a mountain, right? Regardless of where you want the summit to be, that doesn't have to be diamond for you. It could be, I want to get $1,000 a month and be ranking up to gold so I can have an extra $500 to $1,000 a month extra income. Okay, so whatever that pinnacle is for you, just know that that path to that top where your goal is, whether it's a monthly goal or it's, your big crazy goal, there's going to be like difficulties, there's going to be smooth times, there's going to be some breathtaking views like as you climb the mountain. And so you all are climbing the mountain, you're all learning, you're gaining mindset, you're gaining a skill set, and you're able to help. So as you start to climb the mountain, you're going to be able to help, say you're up here, maybe you've hit super silver, you're able to help these people that are just starting out on their journey right down here, right? And so you're able to navigate from point A to point B and help your people. And so for those of us who are jewel rank or higher, I would say, or even gem rank or higher, ruby or above, we've gone through some seasons in our life or in our business, right? Where we've acquired a level of perspective that you may not have if you're brand new starting out. And so that's why this type of stuff is so valuable. That's why being together at convention is so valuable, because it's not necessarily like what Mel Robbins or John Maxwell says. I mean, their stuff is great, but sometimes it's little tiny something that you may take away that in a private conversation you have with one person that changes the trajectory of your business for the next year. Because this business success in something like this, oops, don't forget to mute, guys, as you pop on. Success in this business is all about the pivots. And they're tiny little pivots and shifts in our mindset and our skill set, and recognizing, oh my goodness, I'm realizing that there's a one little tweak to this, even, 20-minute Facebook group event that I'm not doing that I need to be better at. Okay, I'm muting everyone. As they pop on, there's some weird feedback. Can you guys still hear me? Okay. If you have specific questions, feel free to put them in the comments. Okay, can you hear me still? Hopefully. There's someone that keeps unmuting. I'm not sure who that is. I'm hearing like weird tapping sounds. Okay, I think we're good. Alrighty. I wanted to talk through, so I just got this book called The 7 Laws of Network Marketing, and I'm going to be ordering a box of them because it was such a quick read. I read it while I was taking a bath the other night. Absolutely phenomenal. And the first law is actually the law of sowing and reaping. And that was basically my overarching theme for 2020. And it's a law that what we sow, we're going to reap. right? And it talks about in the Bible, actually, like whatever, the world's oldest book, the fact that those who sow sparingly will also reap sparingly. Those who sow bountifully will reap bountifully. And so I feel like this particular law can actually apply. It's a universal law, it's a spiritual law, but it's something that we can apply to our business. And one of the things that I really appreciate about this first chapter in this book was, you know, this particular, well, there's a particular parable or a story that was talked about in the Gospels. It's actually Matthew 13, 3-8. And so I think it's really cool. I was wanting to just share a little bit about this because I thought it was so impactful and it made sense to me. So it talks about the farmer going out to sow his seed, and some of the seed fell into rocky places where it didn't have much soil, but it sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But then when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they were withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil where it produced a crop, 160 or 30 times what was sown. And I thought this was super interesting because this is like a story within a story. And so this guy is basically mentoring this young entrepreneur network marketer. But anyways, this can be applied to our business in the sense that, you know, you put seed in the ground, right? You're connecting and talking to people about the opportunity or about your products. Let me see this. So sowing would be talking to people, making presentations, sharing the business opportunity, posting on Facebook, right? And so he asked this mentoree a question. Let me ask you, how many people a day are you sharing with? How many people are you sowing into planting the seed? Every day? Maybe every week? And the guy said, I don't talk to people every day about my business. And he said, well, how many people did you talk to yesterday? And he said, none. I was watching videos in my back office. And he said, how much money did that make you? And he said, well, it didn't make me any money. And the mentor said, exactly. He said, nothing. You didn't plant the seed, and therefore you will reap no fruit. And he said, so you see, some people talk to one person a day. And so that's 365 people a year. And so I think the numbers of this make a lot of sense. Hopefully this resonates with you guys. But he said, let's say that 5% sign up for your business. That's about 18 people. And that's fine, right? But what if you talk to 3 people a day? That's over 1,000 people within a year's time frame. Now, and then the 5% is about 50 people in your business. So he's saying basically you have a 5% sign up rate, okay? And so what I've communicated to people is, like, out of 100 people that I talk to, I can expect to get 10 responses back if I Facebook message people. And then out of the 10, not everyone's going to say yes. Actually, most people ghost or say no, or not right now, right? But there's a percentage of people, and this is what we're looking for, is the people that say, yes, I'm interested, send me more info, right? So at the 5% is over 50 people in your business. And if you raise that closing rate to 8%, then you're talking 80 people. You have to plant the seeds by talking to people. And so he said, do you have an apple tree in your backyard? And he's like, no, I don't. That's a weird question. And he said, well, that means that no one ever planted an apple seed there. And he said, you'd be nuts to walk into your backyard where there's never been an apple seed planted and expect to pick apples off an apple tree. Yet network marketers whine all the time about their business is not growing and they aren't planting any seeds. It's ludicrous, right? It's ridiculous. And so the cool thing is he talks about the other sub messages in this passage. And so, you know, as he was scattering the seed, okay, that little parable talks about some fell along the path and the birds came up and ate it. And so you'll see this. I'm sharing this because this is just like bird's eye view of perspective, okay? Some of the people that you sow into will have the message stolen from them. The birds eat it. It might be their attitudes or the fact that someone told them it was a pyramid scheme or something. This seed hits the ground and the birds eat it. Nothing grows, okay? Some of the people you think will be the biggest rock stars do nothing with this opportunity. Okay, some of the seed fell in rocky places where it didn't have much soil, but it sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But then when the sun came out, the plants were scorched and they withered because they had no root. So these would be, you know, if we're making, like, drawing an analogy from this particular story, This would be like the people that get all excited and they jump in right away and they run around with all their activity and then they just fizzle. Have you ever had anyone like that in your organization? If you've been doing this business for any length of time, you will have some of those people, okay? But what I'm saying is, like, it's okay that you have people that say no. It's okay that you have people that come in and blitz off, start running fast and then fizzle. Not that it's okay, but like that's just reality of what happens, because we're dealing with people, we're dealing with numbers. When you look at numbers, there's a percentage that are going to say no, there's a percentage that are going to say yes, and out of the people that say yes, there's going to be some that fizzle for whatever reason, right? It didn't go the way they wanted, or it didn't go as fast as they wanted, as they expected, and they quit. They had no roots, right? And then he goes, well, that sounds like my best friend Mark. He totally quit. How much money will Mark make in your business? Nothing, right? Okay, and then here's the third one. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. These are the people who get into the business. They might even do well, but then the worries of life choke them out. They forget to keep up on their business and they get distracted. They worry about money or what other people may think, and they get choked and they die. They never make it. And this mentor is telling this mentoree, frankly, unless you get going, this will probably be you. You need to get moving. And he said, I have this to say. It's sort of depressing. So far, you only told me about the people who don't make it. Do most people not make it? He said, correct. Most people don't make it. And Brooke Hemingway had some statistics like, I'm going to butcher it if I try to repeat it, but basically for even just business in general to last past the year mark or past the 2-year mark is a very, very slim percentage. So it's really interesting. He said, of course, this is what happens a lot of times is people don't make it. He said, I make multiple millions of dollars a year. My top year was $8 million, and most people on my team who had signed up had quit. But I sowed enough seed that there were enough who stayed, and it made me a fortune. It made a lot of other people fortunes also, and countless people an income that got out of the rat race. Listen to the last kind of ground. So this is where we want to put stars and asterisks around. Still other seed fell on good soil where it produced a crop, 160 or 30 times what was sown. This is the seed that produces. These are people that good seed falls on good soil and they listen. 30, 60, 100 times they produced over what was sown. Now, you don't know when you're talking to people what kind of ground they are. You're just throwing the seed out to see what happens. What happens, happens. It all makes sense when you put it that way. It's ancient wisdom rooted in every aspect of life. You reap what you sow, and I reap what I sow. So I thought that was really interesting. He said, okay, so this is like a story within a story, but he said, talk is cheap. Just get it done. You'll be glad you did. So that is the first law of network marketing, the law of sowing and reaping. And so I wanted to just kind of open this call with that perspective, because I feel like that's really valuable to know in advance. Like, most people quit. A lot are not going to say yes, but some are. And from the people that are, you're going to find the little nuggets and the gems, the jewels, the people that are willing to go through the process of what this business requires, right? Okay, I have a couple of things to talk about. Let's see. I'll just mention really quickly, Angie Amberzetti and Melody Detweiler are hosting a tweak on events that are working really, really well for them. I may actually have them pop on the team page and share about these. But what they're doing is basically taking the ideas of what we've been doing with the little events that we're hosting for like 30-minute events. You hop on live, you welcome everyone, and then there's a series of 10 posts that post for a half an hour, right? And then you offer a little special at the end and you do a gifty prize. And so that has been working for people, right? But what we're seeing work extremely well are these very short, like 15, 20-minute events where someone just has 3 to 4 posts. They pop on live and share their story. And at the very end, they do, hey, to win a prize, comment below with your specific health goal for the summer. And then right away, they're getting into 3-way messages with these people. and closing people. And so I just wanted to say a couple of words about how to be more effective in hosting events. And so when you have new people that say they want to share, don't just suggest to host an event for them. You as the sponsor need to be extremely proactive in being specific and putting a time cap, like a level of urgency on the event. And so say, hey, I would love to help you earn that June stimulus. I mean, now we're getting down to the wire. So it's probably a matter of you saying, hey, I have time tonight. How about tonight at 7:30? Would that work? You need to give them a time and a date and a time and just say, hey, would this work? And Melinda has even communicated before, when you decide to host an event for someone the day of, you often have really great response rate back because it's the day of. People don't have to try to remember in 3 days that there's an event, right? And the immediacy of that works. Plus, even inviting people like an hour before the event or a half an hour before the event by going into your messenger and looking at the green dots. The green dots are the people that are active on Facebook at that particular time and saying, hey, I don't know if you've seen my Plexus post, but I'm hosting a gut health event tonight. I thought you might be interested. Do you mind if I send you a link? Be very conscious of the words that you're using, because that can make or break the yeses that you get. Because I'm very pointed and specific in both, helping people start, right? My closings are specific. I'm not saying, hey, let me know when you're ready. I don't ever say that. I don't sound apologetic in how I'm helping people get started, because I know that they will only see health change if they get started on the products, right? I know that my person will probably not go silver unless I'm helping them. Yes, you'll have self-starters and people that just naturally go and do it. This team is proof of that, because I obviously haven't handheld with every single person, or even the majority of my level ones, I just haven't. But I will say that I'm having a great response and a great turnout of silvers, super silvers, golds, people that are earning the stimuluses because I'm helping them. And because a lot of times what happens is we wait for people to say, hey, can you host me an event? And often they're not going to do that or say that. People are probably not going to seek us out to get started on Plexus. It's going to take us initiating with them. And so I wanted to say that. Also, the value of third-party validation. I was talking to Jocelyn yesterday, and we were chatting about this, and so I wanted to address this either in a specific, a separate training or in this one. So I'm just going to talk about it now. But if you're not currently using third-party validation, meaning asking your sponsor to help you with messages, especially even if you're not brand new. Carrie and I realized this last month, is she was mentioning something to me about a particular person. I'm like, can you reach out and tell them that? And what I saw was that her reaching out, instead of just me being the one to reach out, it made such an impact and had so much value. And so I think I've had this idea that the only people that really benefit from third-party validation are the ones that aren't competent yet in asking the questions or knowing what to say, but that's actually not true. You will find that just the fact of having another person in on the conversation, able to chime in, even because they're not actually personally connected to that person, sometimes you come in with a level of confidence and boldness that you don't have as the personal friend or the acquaintance, or you're privy to someone's financial situation, so you're actually not as bold as you should be. And so I'll just use Amanda, for example. We've been in a lot of three-way messages with her people and her people's people. And it's not because she's not competent. She knows what to say. She's been in customer service for years. She bends over backwards for people. But the fact that there's a 2 or 3 other parties in the message thread helping people, what a support system, right? And we're finding some good success with the third-party validation there. But I will say, you need to be proactive. If you're hosting an event for someone, it's not just, hey, throw me in a 3-way with your people. Your people probably don't know what that means. That's like mumbo jumbo to them. So you need to give them specific instructions and not assume that they know, and say, hey, one thing that's really helpful, as soon as this event is over tonight at 8 o'clock, you need to message each one of the people that said yes to the event, that's a member in the event, not just the ones that were active, but every single person. Put me in a little group message so that there's 3 people in each message, and this is what you're going to say to them. And you need to send them specific wording to say, because you don't want them using the word like upline. That's like total network marketing scare you out of your wits wording, right? So you want to, give them the wording to say like, hey, hey, Angie, thank you so much for popping on my event tonight. I would absolutely love to hear what your thoughts are. I'm excited that my friend Amanda is in this little chat thread with me because she's so knowledgeable. She has a lot of years of experience with the products and helping people, making great recommendations on particular products. So we would love to hear what your health goals are. Or if they actually said what their health goal was, then you can actually verbalize that and say, hey, I noticed that your goal for the summer is to shed the baby weight. Can you tell me more about that? What's your goal weight? Are you struggling with any other symptoms right now? And so you're basically teaching them how to open up that conversation. And I also say that Melody is hosting a bunch of these for people, and they're having great success because it's more of like a mom's night out, little 20-minute event. Only a couple of posts, but she said the thing that makes them so effective is that they're getting into three-way messages right away, and they're closing these people. And then from there, they're saying, well, hey, would you like me to host you an event like this, like we just did for Melody? And then you can help a couple people get on board. What are your thoughts? So you see the duplications process go very quickly. And when you help people get started really strong like that, their first 90 days are going to be set, where they're starting the products, they have that third party accountability, but they also have, they're starting to duplicate because you're doing something so insanely simple with the little events that you're creating. So I just wanted to put it out there to be specific. When people have communicated, yes, I'd love to earn the stimulus, then it's like, okay, today, tonight, 7:30, does it work? Okay. Another thing, if you guys have specific questions as I'm talking, if things are coming up, feel free to put them in the chat. Or if someone has a comment that you want to slice in, feel free. Okay. There's a couple comments on the momentum group. I want to make sure I don't misquote the questions. Okay. So what are your top tips for developing leaders on your team? That brings up a very interesting point, a very interesting question. Are leaders developed or are leaders developed? I think there's two different things that I will share here. Is yes, oops, I hope you guys can hear me. It says my internet connection is unstable. Yes, I believe people can be developed. And I see a lot of potential in a lot of people. Oh, my question is, can leaders be developed? Can you develop people? So I'm going to share kind of a two-pronged approach to that. So yes, I believe that you can develop people. I think that we're proving that we can because we are in the trenches working with people that don't necessarily have the skill set or the intuitive, what is the word? They're not necessarily intuitive when it comes to this business. So in some sense, I believe that yes, we can develop people. But it takes a lot more work than just sending them to a team page or sending them to a chat thread to like glean the information and go ahead and go do based on what they learned. And so my tips for developing would be the simple system: make a post, make a list, message, invite, make a post, make a list, message, invite. That should be our MO every single day. And then that's what we're wanting to duplicate with people. And so when I say I'm working with people one-on-one, and I think this also helps with overwhelm because Amy Glasscock had a question about overwhelm. I think when you're working with new people one-on-one specifically, there's less room for overwhelm because you're actually giving them small steps of things to do instead of just throwing them into 8 different Facebook groups, okay? So what I help people do is I help them make a post, I help them make a list, I help them message, and I help them invite because I host an event for them. We either do or a 20-minute Zoom or a little Facebook event. Okay, and so continuing to do that and doing it with new people, it's the system, right? So we're doing that over and over, and I think that's what will help develop people because then they can easily duplicate that system. But leadership also, as what this book, the way this book explains what leadership is. Leadership, oh no, it wasn't this book, it was the other book, the brain book that I'm reading for moms, talked about leadership. What is leadership? Leadership is discipline. Leadership is personal growth. Leadership, like to exhibit, like it's easier to sit on the sidelines and let someone else do it for you, right? Or let someone else be the initiator, the hoster of events, the pastor in the front of the church, right? But any of us can be leaders. It's those who are willing to develop and fine-tune their discipline, their level of discipline and commitment and grit. So the other token of that, the other side note on that particular developing leaders thing is this: recruit leaders. So here's the Jim Rohn quote, which Justin mentioned. You need to go listen to that. I think it's a 2-hour webinar in its entirety, and I actually post that on the Momentum group because you can pop an earbud in while you're exercising or doing laundry or something and listen to it. But this is his quote: "Don't send your ducks to Eagle School." So what that means is, if you want leaders, you need to recruit eagles. Quit trying to make your ducks into eagles. So again, there's two sides. So I definitely believe in seeing the potential in everyone, working and to develop people, helping them learn the skill set, helping them learn the mindset. But at the same time, on the other token, your network marketing experience is going to be a lot easier and faster if you recruit leaders, if you attract leaders, if you recruit eagles instead of ducks. Hopefully that doesn't come across as offensive. Hopefully you're able to extract the beauty from that. And also, I think it also raises up our particular leadership lid and level, in the sense that we're probably not going to attract or recruit a level 10 leader to our business if we're a level 2 leader and we have not developed relationships. We are socially and personality wise somewhat maladjusted. If we haven't spent our life pouring into people, if we haven't, I think everyone has a level of influence, but if we're someone that really needs to work on a lot of different areas in our life, we're not a level 10 leader at that point, right? And I would say people come into this business at different seasons in their life and at different stages. And so someone that has been successful in another network marketing company, someone maybe that has been in sales and has been, spent 3 decades of their life building a network and building relationship, they're going to be at a different point and have different, they're going to have their own set of challenges and skill set to learn, but they're in some ways going to be at a different point than someone that comes in at age 21 that hasn't built all that. So I'm not saying it's impossible for the 21-year-old, but the approach might be a little bit different. There's also the aspect of, there's a lot of different ways to work this business. You find a 21-year-old who is an Instagram influencer. Maybe they're not like an in-person influencer or have a lot of personal relational experiences, but they have that massive thing going and growing for them. So hopefully that maybe brings some perspective and light to that particular question, but that's my perspective at this point. So, all right, there was a question about stories. There's actually going to be a training on creating engaging and eye-catching social media stories. So Molly Kavam had a question about that. So like, she likes the graphics, she likes the font, but maybe she's not a mom of toddlers. So then I would say you would need to look in that particular Facebook group, if you're wanting to use other people's content, to find something that resonates with you and what you feel like your network would resonate with. Otherwise, you might have to create your own. So, okay, here was a great question by Amy Glasscock. How do you navigate 8 Facebook pages and tons of information, not to mention the back office? Overwhelming and hard to point someone to where to start when there's just so much. None of it is very quote unquote orderly. So, and then she's also saying, I think I feel overwhelmed by most things anyway. Amy, how long have you been in Plexus? Oops, maybe she, oh, 3 weeks. Oh, 3 weeks. Okay. Completely normal to feel like you're drinking from a fire hydrant. I felt this way 5 years ago when I started Plexus, and I was only added to one page. And I think life in general is a lot noisier. Social media is a lot noisier. There's just a whole lot more to navigate in general. So this is what I've told people, because I have had people communicate to me like, oh my word, the team page is so overwhelming. There's like 12 posts a day and most of it's celebration graphics or whatever. So my 2 cents on that is first of all, to know that any of those pages are simply resources. So I don't know what all pages that you've been added to, but for example, the team page is a resource that you can use to fit whatever you feel like you need it to be. So if you need to type in on the search bar and type in Betty's blog because you have someone addressing that with you and you're like, I have no idea what Betty's blog is, that's been addressed in the team page. If you want to type in ease because you're curious how and why that particular product works, you can type in ease in the search bar and get a ton of different information that pulls up that you can either send to people or you could post or you can glean from to help answer people's questions. I will say that when I get someone started, I pretty much just add them to one page, and that is the one team page. Now, if I'm going to invite them to an event, then yes, I will send them the link to the Let's Learn About Plexus group. So we have 2 event pages that we utilize per month. We basically scrub the same page so that we're not creating new pages every time. And so we have the Let's Learn About Plexus, which is either a basic about the products, or like tonight's going to be about skincare, Joyman collagen, right? And then we have a little business page for potentials that's where we host our little business info groups. So hopefully that makes sense in the sense that, wow, people are like popping in and out of here. Sorry guys, maybe it's my internet. But those 2 groups are like for potentials. The Learning Center Tribe is a group that I've had since I started Plexus, and it just is full of a ton of testimonials. So sometimes it's just helpful to know where to find stuff. So if someone's like, Megan, I have PCOS or I'm dealing with fibromyalgia, do you have some information or some testimonials on that? I will send them the link to that group, and then they can pop in there and I can tag them in like 3 or 4 or 5 specific testimonials on PCOS or whatever issue they're dealing with. So hopefully that makes sense in the standpoint of it's like you'll end up filtering and figuring out which groups are helpful, and how you can utilize those. Same with the videos. Like I've listened to a lot of videos, but honestly, I only send out 1 of 2 videos, either the microbiome video or the Plexus Triplex video. That's pretty much all I use. If someone is really wanting a lot more information and perspective, I might send out Tammy Conacher or Shoshana Easling's Lyme video. So if it's someone super sick, maybe not with Lyme, but just in general, because their videos talk about like the decision to help yourself get healthy and not just wallow in the symptoms, but to be a thriver. So that might be helpful just to know that like out of all those videos that are available, I utilize pretty much 2 of them. So I've basically found out what my system is within all the information and content available. So yeah, in terms of, I think it's just like when you start any new job, it's going to feel overwhelming and it might feel like all consuming for a little bit until you learn the things that you want to learn. In terms of helping people not feel overwhelmed, I have been working one-on-one with my new ambassadors. So they're not necessarily getting added to so many pages just because I know that it can feel overwhelming. And when we get into this overwhelmed state, a lot of times then we're in the paralyzed state. And I don't want to paralyze anyone. The other thing I will say about overwhelm is a choice. And so we can choose to feel overwhelmed and we can verbalize how overwhelmed we are. Because I had to catch myself in this a couple of years ago. I was like always saying, oh my word, I'm so overwhelmed. There's so much to do, not enough time in the day. And then I had to start flipping what I said. You know what? God has given me enough time to get the things done. I need to prioritize what needs to get done, what maybe doesn't need to get done, or what can get done at a later time. And in terms of overwhelm, just stopping the verbalization and saying, you know what, I have enough time. God can magnify the hours of my day. I actually pray that way. Magnify the hours of my day and bless the work of my hands so that I can do the things that I am called to do. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, Amy, I would definitely reach out to your sponsor and just say, hey, that's what they're there for also, is to help you navigate. Like, hey, I have someone that has extensive gut health issues. She wants to lose weight. What would you say? So the more you're just in connection with your immediate sponsor, in light of gleaning from them what they would do or say, I think the less overwhelm you'll feel and the more confidence you'll feel in recommending something in particular. So just know that it is a little bit like a lot of information all at one time, but you will start to absorb that and figure out a process in your own little system, your own little system within the system. In a perfect world, I feel like Facebook groups are wonky in the sense that sometimes it feels like all new information, because someone will go search for something and they'll tag someone in a particular post, and it'll bring that post up from 5 years ago that most people have never seen before, and they think it's all new content. And if you look at the date, it's not really. So one thing that helps me, so I'm in multiple pages, right? So sometimes if I want to make sure I didn't miss any sort of key information, I will just specifically, before I go to bed, like, okay, I'm going to pop in this group and this group and this group. I'm just going to type or click on the photos. So if you click on the photos tab, you'll be able to see everything posted in the order in which it was posted from most recent. And the other thing you can do, there's a little teeny tiny sort button. If you scroll down a post or 2 or 3, there's a little tiny sort button in the right hand corner that will say sort, and you can sort by most recent. That way, you'll make sure you didn't miss anything from this morning. The other thing I will say, when people say, oh my word, it's so overwhelming, if you only plug in once a week and you try to catch up on any threads that you're in or team page stuff, it will feel overwhelming, which is why I recommend people pop on the team page at least once a day. But I will just say, you have to be careful that you're not doing that instead of actually working your business, because yes, you want to glean information and you want to absorb, but you don't want to just be a consumer. You actually want to put into practice the things that you're learning. And so it's that balance, and it's also the leadership skill of knowing this is the top priority. It's not actually income producing for me to go comment on the team page posts or to go spend an hour reading through posts I haven't seen before, right? So, okay, that was a great question. And then another question was, sorry, I tried to jot these down, but it might be better if I just read this. What does your daily, weekly, monthly agenda look like for IPA? And IPA means income producing activity. How do you organize ways of networking, connecting, new reach outs, and follow-ups so you don't overwhelm yourself with trying to stay on task and maintain productivity? So, oops, get ready to lose my battery here. One thing I will say is my business now looks a lot different than it did my first year of Plexus, right? There's a lot more that I'm leading and in charge of. And so in some sense, it's kind of like when you're a new mom and you're just overwhelmed by all the things. You're like, oh my word, I just had my baby, and like everything hurts, and I have to figure out the feeding schedule, and oh my word, how are we going to educate this baby? Like, you're thinking of like all the things at one time, where after you've, for example, like 3 months in or 6 months in to that new mom experience, you're like, oh my word, I've got this. Like, we figured out the sleep schedule, we've figured out nursing or bottle feeding or whatever you do. And so in some sense, you will figure out like your system, how to help yourself feel productive and successful within your time constraints and the particular goals that you have. And so my IPA did not look beautiful. Like, I have some people on my team that are just in a different season of life where they're able to do Excel spreadsheets. They're able to make these beautiful binders and tabs and all this. Like, I never had that. Like, in my closet, I can show you my notebooks. They were like college lined notebook, spiral bound notebooks. That's what I used for my IPA. I'd have a list of my connections, contacts, follow-ups, people that, you know, had liked or commented on my posts. So my basic first 12 months of Plexus looked like me in every spare minute of my time when I wasn't, you know, mothering or teaching my children. I was sitting in my rocking chair nursing my baby. I literally had scraps of paper that I jotted names down on because they came to mind as people that might be interested in the products or the business, and I contacted them. And then I would be helping them get signed up on the phone or whatever. So if you don't have a 90-day journal, this is like hugely helpful to me in terms of, I have different tabs. Speaking of beautiful tabs, I'm a little bit more, this is what's working for me now. It's like my connection list in my 90-day journal. It's one spot. I'm not having to go get 3 different notebooks, right? So I have potentials. I have people that were in my health event. I have a list of people that I'm connecting with. I have people, possible silvers, and then I have new ambassadors listed out since May. I'll also say that I have like people on my team, like level 1s in their ranks, people that are ranking up. And I don't know, surely you've seen have you seen my my door? I don't know if I can turn my computer around enough for you to see this, but I just use this Post-it note system now as of this month to not just have a visual of who my personally sponsored people are, or my blank sticky notes if I haven't sponsored them yet, right? And also who I'm helping to add 3, who I'm helping to add 6, and I have their name and I have lines underneath them. And then as they're adding people, I'm filling those in, because my goal is not to just sponsor people at this point, it's actually to develop them. And then I have a lot of people written out with their ranks and like the people under them that can rank up, and I kind of mapped that out. And so that was hugely helpful in light of that. And so you don't overwhelm yourself, stay on track with maintaining productivity. There's a level of like, it's just hot mess. So, I mean, some days I feel like that, or I have to take time to just get my brain on paper. I'm a pen and paper person, and that's what works for me. And so a lot of times I'll use these notebooks, you know, and I'll go through and I'll blitz through maybe the last story that I made. It doesn't even have to be a Plexus story, just people that are following me. And if I haven't talked to them about Plexus yet, that's like a definite reach out. Like, hey, I see you're following my stories. Thank you so much for your support. You know, hey, have you ever tried Plexus before? Or hey, if I sent you over a little video, would you take a look at it? Or hey, if I send you a little an invite to our event tonight, would you come? Hey, if I sent you a stick of collagen, would you try it? You know, so like asking questions to get a yes. But in terms of my daily, weekly, monthly agenda for IPA, when I first started, that was pretty much all I did in my business. Obviously, I made posts, but I was basically talking to people, asking them, you know, based on what I knew about them. My friend Jody, who's a Ruby on our team, I remember reaching out to her. Hey, Jody, I know you want you to stay home with your baby, and I know you have IBS. Like, have you looked at Plexus? I remember exactly what I said, but she joined Plexus for the products and the business, and it's been a huge blessing to her family. So I don't know that I'm like super organized in the sense of this is what I do every day. But in the very first part of my business, I spent pretty much all my spare time sharing Plexus with people. But that was a personal choice that I made because we had specific goals, and also as an outlet, a fun outlet for me. I've never thought this business has felt like a business. It just feels like fun, right? Now my daily, weekly IPA, it's actually squeezed into the nooks and crannies of everything else I have to do in my business. Because at this point, I'm not trying to recruit the world. I want to help people that want to get started on the products and or this business. But my biggest thing at this point is duplication. Jess and I are still working on making 6 the new 3. And so we're still actively recruiting people. Justin is really working on recruiting in Mexico. And so we were on a Zoom call last night for, I don't know, an hour and a half, late at night, talking to some prospects and one of our new ambassadors in Mexico. And so like this business doesn't necessarily even fit within a box. You know, I know some people are very regimented, and they just say, from 2 to 4, that's my time that I do plexus. That's when my kids are napping. That's when I do IPA. If that works for you, that's great. But sometimes that type of really strict regimented, I'm only giving it 2 hours, means you're not actually growing as fast or as quickly as you could, because a lot of times people are not just available from 2 to 4 p.m. every day. And so having an awareness of, yes, there should be boundaries, but there's some seasons where you might have to take the boundaries out for a little bit. The other thing I'll say too is, in the beginning, when I didn't have help and my husband was not at home, he was working 12 to 14 hours a day, and then coming home, and after we put the kids to bed, we'd work till midnight or 1 a.m. every morning to work plexus. And we don't regret that sacrifice that we made. It was a choice that we made because of specific goals that we had. And so we were working to get out of debt with our old farmhouse, and we saw the vision for what plexus could be for our family. And so it was worth the time that we invested in that. And also, I worked when my babies were sleeping in the afternoon, or I would stay up late after they went to bed, or I'd get up way early before they got up to work plexus. So that's just how it worked for me. I know people are at different seasons in their life where they're able to maybe give their best hours of their day to plexus. A lot of us, I would say, are working plexus in the midst of working other businesses, raising children. We're in the middle season of our life right now. And so it can look a little bit like a, CRAP show, for lack of a better word. But just to be completely honest with you, it's a juggle. And I tell people it's the struggle of the juggle. And so you're going to have to find out what works for you. You need to have a conversation with your spouse, with your kids, based on the particular goals that you have. Because if you say you want to be a diamond in a year, in 2 years, or you want to be a jewel, or you want to rank up in the next 90 days, you need to have a shareholders meeting, because what you're currently doing probably isn't enough to get the airplane off the ground. And so you're going to have to spend more time working your business. And I know Jessica Heffley, just as a way of giving a perspective, as she said, if you're not, working at least 1 to 2 hours a day on your business, don't say that you want to rank up, because you need to be giving this at least 8 to 10 hours a week if you want this business to work for you. And so just based on the number of hours. Then there's other people that have really big goals. They're like, I want to be a jewel within a year. I want the 6-figure income. I want to go to Hawaii. We need a new car. And so they're willing to sacrifice and work 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day. And you can work that in a 24-hour period. You do not have to stay up all night, but you also can still be a wife. You can still be a mom in the midst of all of that. But it's going to take intentionality and a lot of really specific, organization and teamwork from your family team, right? So, okay. And then creative ways to reach people. Amanda had a good question. She was saying online events and Zooms don't seem to be working right now. So this is one of those things where there's a lot of ways. Okay, so I'm a hillbilly a little bit, so I'm going to use this quote, or this whatever you call it. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat. So this business does not just have to look like how I did it, or how Melinda does it, or how Kristen does it. So if you're finding that the Facebook event thing or the Zoom idea isn't working super well, then it takes creative question asking, kind of a digging deep creativity thing to say, okay, how can I help these people, right? What can we do differently? How can we tweak this? And so I don't have all the answers in light of that. I just know helping people make a post, helping them make a list, helping them message, helping them invite, and being willing to host events, like getting in front of people, is the key to this business. And so for some people, they're going to have to make a lot more presentations than other people. They may have to do some in-person stuff. They may have to simply talk to a lot more people. I know my friend Lauren, she had to talk to 200 people. I think it was 200 people before she went silver. I don't know if she would say that she just didn't have a high level of influence or rapport with people, or what her reasoning or the reasons why that would be. But for some people, they may just have to talk to a lot more people before they get their 3, yes, I'm in, I'm doing this with you. So Amanda, I don't know if that helps you. Melinda may have some other things to chime in. I know she's someone else, or Jamie, a couple of people on here that have worked this business for a couple of years, so they may have some insights for that. But sometimes it's, even when you get an idea, just saying, you know what, let's try that. You know, giving something a try if you feel like what you're doing is not working, or you may just have to do more of what you're doing to get the results you want. I also feel like you're very much in the trenches with people. So that, I mean, kudos to you for that, because they're getting your specific insight with that. Follow up in 3-way chats is huge. Yeah, if people are not having you chime in with their 3-way chats, they're probably not saying the right thing, or they don't have enough confidence to like get people rolling, right? So yeah, follow up in 3-way chats after events is huge. Yeah, Kristen, she says, at the end of the day, set out a goal that works for me, write it down, and then I can feel good when I have accomplished it. And I will say, like, planning out your day the night before is huge. That way you're not crash landing into your day or your week, and you have specific things that you know you have to get done in your home, with your kids, with your business, and all the things. Which video do I send? So I typically, when I'm talking to people, like, honestly, I don't usually send videos unless they are specifically asking for them. Most people just want to know a little bit of basics about the products, your personal experience with them, and then they want to try them to see how it works for them. But if I'm going to send a video, it's typically the microbiome video, and you can go to YouTube and just type in plexus microbiome and it'll pop up. It's also in Spanish. I found that out last night. And then the other one is the plexus triplex video. So the triplex one is a little bit more heavy on the weight loss aspect. So if you have someone with extensive gut health problems, you probably want to send them the microbiome video. And then there's a couple of like specific testimonials. I know Tammy Conacher has been doing some health related testimonial Zooms, and those have been really valuable. So if you have someone that's like, oh my word, I have anxiety at the wazoo, then you can say, oh my word, my friend Tammy just did a call with a couple of her friends that have seen great results using Plexus, and they've dealt with anxiety and depression. Do you mind if I send that over? And so you can use that type of third-party validation tool also, where you don't have to be the expert and just, you know, feel like, oh my word, I can't speak into that because I didn't have anxiety. You can plug them into some people that did, and that can be the clicking sales tool, for lack of a better word, where you're not having to be that salesperson for that particular topic or subject. I have both problems, all the chats and still nothing, and one person I can't get to add me to chats. Yeah, so it's one of those things, like, you have to just trust the process. I think we've talked about this also, is you're not probably going to get every single person to silver, but the act of presenting the opportunity to, hey, do you want to earn that June stimulus? Is $300 to $500 if you help 3 people get started. Would you like me to help you with that? I mean, out of all the messages that I sent out about that, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had 10 people that communicated yes to me about that. And so I definitely don't assume that, oh, it's just easy for Megan or easy for Melinda or easy for Denise because you see people adding or some other people going silver. A lot of times they have sent out 100 times that amount to get the one yes, or to actually help the person get to silver. So if they won't add you to chats, I was actually talking to Jocelyn about this yesterday. If they won't add you to chats and you're in the group that they created, go create the 3-way chats yourself. Friend every person that's in that group and create the 3-way chat and do your little follow-up with them. So in my brain, my business includes any people they're talking to. And so obviously I would sign them under that person, but sometimes people aren't proactive, or they have, various reasons maybe for not including you, but you're the one with more of the skill set and can help them actually get started. So does that help? Melinda or is, I don't see Jamie on here anymore. You guys might have some other things to chime in on that. Sometimes hearing just like you're not abnormal helps. Hey.
Sorry. That's what I was just thinking. I was just thinking, like, you know, sometimes I do events and there's literally nobody shows up, or, you know, it's, I will snuggle you. Come here, girlfriend. And so that's not abnormal, to have that happen, or to have them not start those three-way chats. And so I love that you said, you go do it, you go do it. Because that's something that if they've said yes to the event, then it's okay to reach out to them and say, you know, hey, thanks so much for coming to the event. I would love to hear some of your health goals or maybe some symptoms you're struggling with, and then just start the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think sometimes people that we hold the events for are hesitant to do that because maybe those people didn't comment on the posts, but you know, they might have checked it out quick and they just didn't really have time to do that, because Plexus is on our brains all the time, but it's not on other people's, and they might really, really, really need what we have to offer. It's just that event happened one time and it was 20 minutes and then it's done, and they just don't think about it. It's the same with like follow-up and asking them if they're ready to get started. It's not on their brain, and they would love for you to help them get started, so that they don't have to place the order for themselves, and they don't have to worry about what's that going to be like, me setting up an account. Like, I'm terrified of that. I'm going to just be honest. If I have to set up an account with something, I don't know how long it's going to take me. I don't know if I'm going to get halfway done and have to stop because of non-napping children. And so I avoid it. I truly do. So I always place the order for them. I always offer that, and I always ask the question. So do not be afraid to ask the question once you're in those three-way chats. And I think too, just having a system that you follow for the chat. And Megan kind of talked about this a little bit, but we only interact back and forth most three-way chats before I ask that question, maybe 5 or 6 times. I share a video, I share info sheets, I ask their pain points, obviously first. I'm not saying this in the right order, but it's really not, you're not spending an hour, 2 hours talking with people. It's back and forth. You give them the information and ask them if they're ready to get started, because we can't help them if they don't have the products in their hands. So, and that's really the first step to that educating piece. We can educate all day, but if they don't have the products, and that's something that I learned. I used to give too much information, way too much, and it overwhelmed people. And so I just kind of have a system that I follow, and I send the same info sheets. They're bookmarked to my phone, super simple to send into Messenger, and that saves me a ton of time. So I guess that's what I would add to events. And
yeah, that's excellent. And you'll find that you'll do the same exact thing as you did for these other 3 people that you hosted events for or done three-way chats with, and you get different outcomes. So you just have to trust the process with that. The other thing I'll say really quickly is I do the same sort of follow-up if someone makes a post. If someone makes a post and they get a bunch of comments and they do nothing with it, even with my coaching. So I will take the bull by the horns and say, hey, thank you so much for commenting on Allison's post about Plexus. You know, I'm helping her help people find answers and talk about their health goals. And I was just curious, you know, what health goals you have for the summer. And so you can either message them privately, mainly if you're already friends with them. Otherwise, they may not see it because it goes to their others folder, or create the three-way chat and just take the bull by the horns there, because the immediacy and the urgency factor on after they make the post or after they host the event, that's when the time to capitalize is really the highest. There was one other question I'll address really quick and then we'll pop off. Hey, I have a potential that has a Joyome sample. She said she doesn't like the smell of the daytime. Is there a particular thing she may be smelling? I would say that's personal preference, and it goes back to education. I think if people see the value in what they're tasting or sampling, it can override the fact that they don't love the taste or they don't love the smell. So maybe they would just love the evening serum and get used to it. So I would just say, you know, or encourage them to, you know, try the evening one and stick with that one for a while. And, you know, maybe try to introduce them to a couple of other products that they may fall in love with. But I also I do share my perspective and press in sometimes when people are like, oh, and they're whining about the flavor of Slim. We're like, you know what? I've drank so many disgusting, chunky green things in the name of health that for me to drink a little drink that's pink, that's a little sweeter than what I'm normally, you know, that I'm normally drawn to me, the benefits outweigh the pain of, tasting or drinking something that I don't absolutely love. And then I'll give them tips like, hey, and use the feel, felt, found method, resonate, find a way to connect with the person, say, oh my word, when I started Plexus, I thought the pink drink was way too sweet. It like messed with my brain because I was so like, anti-sweets and trying to take control of Candida that I was like, oh my word, this is so sweet. So adding more ice, adding some more water, adding some fresh lemon or lime that can really cut the sweet down. But the benefits of balanced blood sugar, how you're going to feel, the mood. So you have to kind of vision cast forward for them, even if they come back with a complaint, press in a little bit to share your perspective. Because when I first started, I would just be like, okay, no worries, thanks for trying it, right? But I don't feel like that's the loving thing to do, because we need to share our perspective, because people are limited by their own perspective. And so sometimes we need to expand that a little bit. She hasn't said no, just thought of a particular ingredient I could emphasize the importance. So yeah, I mean, obviously if she starts to see some differences, I mean, that's why I don't really send a whole lot of samples, because sometimes people will have that like initial, oh, I don't like the smell, or oh, I don't like the taste. And so I'll be like, you know what, stick with it for 60 days. That's what your money back guarantee covers, and take your photos for before and after and just see if you notice, if you see a difference. Because obviously they're probably trying it because of some particular pain point they want to see, or some level of dissatisfaction they want to see changed in their health or their skin or whatever. Okay, I gotta go get a drink, guys. I feel like I just did a hour-long monologue. I hope that was helpful, and looking forward to popping back next week. I will be sharing some more from this tiny little book that I have found so impactful. I think sometimes just talking about the obvious parts of this business just helps you know that you're not abnormal. Like the fears you're feeling, the questions that you have, talking about the different laws of network marketing. It's a skill set, it's a mindset, and we're all learning and getting to learn together and making the pivots and the shifts all together. So thanks guys for popping on. I will get the recording up, and you guys have a great rest of your Thursday. Don't forget, tonight is the Joy Collagen event. Make sure you're posting about it, throwing it in your stories, making some polls, messaging, and inviting people to that, and getting your team to do the same thing. I will talk to y'all soon. Bye guys.